All right, what we're gonna do is the section B now for the CDL pre-trip inspection. By doing that, we're gonna check the mirror mount, which is this guy right here. Make sure it's properly secured. Make sure it's not broke or crack. Make sure the bolts are tight and secure. Then after that, you're gonna check your mirrors. When you're checking your mirrors, make sure they are clean and clear. There's no obstructions. Make sure there's no cracks on it, and make sure that you have a good visibility on it. Then after that, you're gonna check for your door. When you're checking for your door, you're gonna make sure that the door handle, the outside door handle, works properly. Make sure you can open and close it. It's working properly. Then after that, you're gonna check your door hinges, which is these guys right here. The hinges. Make sure that you don't have no loose and missing bolts. They're not cracked, they're not sticking, they're not biting. You're gonna check your door seal, which is this one right here, the door seal, all the way around. All the way around. Make sure the door seals, they're not dried out, and it's intact. Make sure that you don't have no portions or pieces around. Then as soon as you finish with that, you're gonna check for your grab handle. This one right here. When you're checking your grab handle, make sure it's not broken, it's firmly attached. Is attached to the truck, right? And no missing or losing bolts or nuts. Just ring. Hard to see it, but you can see it right there. As soon as you finish with that, you're gonna check for your steps right here. All right, you're checking the steps. You're gonna make sure that the steps they are very solid, they are clear of objects, secure attached to the tractor frame right there on the back. Yeah, kind of hard to see it right there. No losing or missing any kind of bolts. Make sure that it doesn't have no grease or oil, and it's safe for you to stand up with them. All right, as soon as you finish with that, you are gonna check your fuel tank. If your fuel tank is not on this side and it's on the passenger side, you gotta go to the passenger side to check the fuel tank. And the stuff that you need to check on the fuel tank, it is not cracks or holes. There's your fuel tank. Make sure that there's no cracks, no holes on it, on the fuel tank. It's not leaking, so you're gonna check on the bottom for no leaks. Then after that, you're gonna check your fuel cap. It's present, it's tight and sealed, it's not cracked or dry rotted. The straps that you have right here, when you're checking the straps, you're gonna say they are not loose or broken. The fuel tank is firmly attached to the vehicle, like right there. Make sure all the wires and the connection there, that you have a proper wire and proper connection on it. Then when you finish with that, you're gonna check for your primary, secondary air tanks. Like what I'm saying, every single truck is completely different. This one you have right here, your primary and secondary pressure tanks. Sometimes it's behind on the fuel tank. So the only thing that you need to say is you're gonna make sure that it's properly secure, and make sure that you're gonna drain daily, like right there, like coolant. All right. Daily, especially in the winter time, because it can get frost inside, so you can prevent to have a brake failure. All right. When you finish with that, before I forgot, you need to check your window, make sure it's clean and clear, make sure it's it can open and close it. Well, this one is electrical. Make sure it's working. Make sure it's clear and clear. Clean and clear. All right. Then after that, you're gonna check your safety equipment. When you're checking your safety equipment, you're gonna check for your number one is your fire extinguisher. All right. When you're checking for your fire extinguisher, by law, you're supposed to have your fire extinguisher right here. And the proper name for the fire extinguisher is a 10 BC fire extinguisher. Make sure it's fully charged. So it's kind of hard to see it, but yeah, you need to check that it's fully charged. Make sure it's full charge, it's properly mounted, and it's up to date. And make sure the secure seal is right here, as well with the secure. It's secure. It's not like you're gonna touch it and that thing is gonna start spraying everywhere. As a part of the safety equipment that you are supposed to have, and you are supposed to have the 3 refractive triangles, which ones they are right here. Make sure they're properly secure. Make sure there are 3 and they're in good shape. Now you are supposed to have also spare fuses. Now your fuses, they have to go inside on your triangles, so they're not going to be staying around here or anything like that. If you need to show to the guy says, show me the fuses, so you're going to show the fuses from there. All right, so you're supposed to have a minimum 6 fuses inside. As soon as when you finish with that, then you're gonna check your service light. So you're gonna come right here to the back. You're gonna start checking for your service light, which means that light right there. Make sure it's clean and clear. Make sure it's not cracked or broken. Make sure there's no missing or loosening screws. Properly attaching, no condensation on it. All right, what this thing do is illuminate all this section, all this area right here. All right. Then after that, you're gonna check your blue service line. Well, in this kind of case, it's a little bit hard to see it, but yeah, one is blue, and the other one's a red emergency air hose. And when you're checking the hoses right here, all the way around, when you're checking your hoses, what you're gonna say to the guy is not dangling or dragging, not crack, not fray or dry rotted. Properly seal it and make sure it's in a good condition. All ends. When you finish with that, you're gonna check your glad hands, which is these guys right here. When you're checking your glad hand, make sure it's properly secured. Let's take them out one. So this is your glad hands right here. All right. When you're checking your glad hands, make sure it's locked in place, and the rubber seal inside is not split. That's the rubber seal inside. Well, in my case, this one is not split. It's just like when I take them off, it just pop it out like that way all the time, but still in good shape. There we go. So this is your glad hands, and that's the rubber seal inside. Make sure that you don't have no air leaks on it. So this one is supposed to stay right here, but since you have the trailer, we're just going to connect it right here. All right, so that's the glad hands. Then after that, you're going to check your electrical cable, which is always in a green color. Well, this one is black, but most of the time it's green. All right. The electrical, make sure it's not dangling, dragging, not cracked, frayed, or dry out. The wires are not burned or damaged. They're firmly attached to the tractor right there, and to the trailer right here. Okay. Then after that, you're gonna check your frame and cross members. This is your frame, and that's your cross member right there. Make sure it's not cracked, dent, broken. They're not factory welds or illegal welds. It doesn't have any missing or losing bolts as well. So make sure it's properly secure right there. See the bolts right there? That's the cross member, and this is the frame. When you finish with that, you're gonna start checking for your battery box. Most of the other trucks, they have the battery box right here, and in my case, this tractor, they have the battery box right here. All right, so when you're checking the battery box, you're gonna check for no cracks, no damage, and make sure it's properly secure the batteries. Pretty much that's what you need to say on the day of the test. Make sure it's mounted properly, secure, and all that. You know. Well, that's if your battery is right here. Now, then after that, you're gonna check for your drive shaft, which is this guy right there. All right, that's your drive shaft. Now, when you're checking your drive shaft, it's not cracked, dent. There's no factory welds or legal welds, you know. And make sure it's secure and free of any obvious obstructions. All right. Make sure the U-joints are properly lubricated. That's very important. Then after that, you're gonna check for your exhaust system, which one's run there. On the day of the test, you gotta go around and you're gonna check for, make sure that the pipe is not cracked. There's no holes. There's no missing or losing bolts. Or nuts. and there's not major rust or black soot. If you have a black soot on the pipe, that indicates that it's leaking. So make sure it doesn't have no leaks on it. Make sure it's secure. Make sure it's mounted properly secure. You know, as you guys can see, it's properly secure right there, right here, right here. Make sure when you're doing the test, make sure you don't touch it out because probably it's super hot. So you don't wanna burn your hands. All right. Then after that, you're gonna check for your catwall. This is your catwall right here. Now, when you're checking for your catwall, you're gonna make sure all the bolts are tight and secure. Make sure there's no oil or grease. I mean, make sure it's clean and clear. All right. Then after that, we're gonna check for the apron. All right, when you're checking the apron, I mean, we're talking about the apron, which is this guy right here. This is the apron. All right. So technically, you're gonna go from the top to the bottom. This is your coupling system. All right, so the guy is going to ask you to check in that one as a part of the section B. You have to check in the coupling system. So the apron, make sure the apron is resting securely in the field wheel. Run there. Make sure it's resting firmly. There's no daylight between the feed wheel and the apron. If you have a daylight between them, something's not right. Make sure the apron is not bent or cracked. Then after that, you're gonna check for your feed wheel, which means this guy right here. All right, when you're checking for your feed wheel, make sure it's properly lubricated. Make sure it's not cracked, not broken. There's not factory or illegal welds. Make sure it's securely mounted. Pins are present. Can you see the little pin back there? It's kind of hard to see it. There we go. That's the pin. This is the kind of pin that we're talking about. Run there. All right. That's the pin that you need to check and make sure it's present, no damage. There's no missing cutter pins. There's no losing. Then after that, you're gonna check your platform. Your platform is this section right here. All right. Goes all the way around. And when you're checking for your platform, make sure it's not cracked, broken, and it's properly mounted. Now you're gonna check your mounting bolts. When you're checking your mounting bolts, let me get it closer. When you're checking your mounting bolts, it's these ones right here. Mounting bolts and nuts. They are present. They are tight. They're secure. They are not loose. All right, that's part of the coupling. And then after that, you're gonna check for your kimping. Now I'm gonna go and show you guys the kimping in a different trailer. All right back. Now the kimping has three parts. This is the kimping. So the kimping has three parts: the base, the shank, and the head. All right, that's the three parts. Now, when you're doing the test, you need to explain to the guy how that works, the kimping and the locking jaw. So let's go back to the previous trailer. All right, now when you're checking the kimping, it is actually right here. So that's the base. There's the shank. Right here at the bottom is the head. So make sure the kimping goes in the middle of the locking jaw, which is this guy right here. So make sure it's properly secure. Make sure you don't have no gaps between that. Other than that, the trailer is not properly connected. All right. Now remember, when you say that you're checking for the kimping and the locking jaw, I mean what I showed you before, make sure it's secure on the shank area of the kimping. That's what you have to say on the day of the test. Then after that, you're gonna check this area right here. I'll show you guys right now. Okay, this is your safety release handle, or safety handle, or release handle. That one right there. For this one right here. So when you pull this one, it makes the locking jaw to get loose. so that thing will be open. So when that thing open, I mean, it can release the trailer. So just be careful with that. All right. Now what we're gonna do the brake system. So let's go to the bottom. First of all, we're gonna start it actually with the suspension system. In this kind of case, where we got is, well, right here in the back, where we got is the airbags. All right. They are or airbags or air bellows. So this one right here, this one is your airbag or air bellow. There we go. So make sure it's properly secured, top and bottom. Make sure it's doesn't have no air leaks. That's part of the suspension system. Then after that, you're gonna check for your shock absorber, which is this. Okay, let me find another truck better than this. Okay, much better. Now you can see this like the airbags, which is these guys right here. Make sure it's secure top and bottom. Make sure it's not leaking in the middle or anywhere. Make sure you have a proper connection. Make sure you don't have no abrasion, bulges, or cuts. Then after that, you're gonna check for your shock absorber, which is this guy right here. So when you're checking your shock absorber, you're gonna make sure it's secure top and bottom, and make sure it's not leaking in the middle. All right, that's part of the suspension system. Then after that, you're gonna check for your spring mount and your springs. Let me go. So basically, this is your spring mount. Make sure that you don't have no loose and missing bolts. Make sure it's not cracked. Make sure that all the bolts there are tight and secure. Then what you're gonna check is for your U-bolts, which is this guy right here. You have two. It's attached to the axle. Make sure the bolts in the bottom go down there. They're secure as well. No loose and missing bolts. All right. Then you're gonna check for your leaf spring, which is this guy right here. Now, when you check for your leaf spring, you're gonna make sure it's properly secured. Make sure this thing is not out. If you have like a more than one spring right here, make sure they're properly aligned. With this one, make sure it's aligned too, because this one is kind of loose. You have to put the truck out of service. When you're checking this one, make sure the leaf spring, make sure it's not on factory welds, no holes, no cracks. All right, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna check the brake system. When you check the brake system, you're gonna check for the air brake hose. This is the same way that you did on the front. All right, for section 8, but this is section B. So anyway, air brake hose, make sure it's not abrasion, bulges, or cuts. Make sure it's properly secured. Make sure it's secure right here on the fittings. Make sure you listen for leaks. Then after that, you're gonna check for your air brake chamber, which is this guy right here. When you're checking the air brake chamber, now this one is upside down. Remember that. When you're checking it for air brake chamber, you're gonna check for the plumb. When you're checking the plumb, make sure it's not loose. Make sure it's present and secure. Air brake chamber, make sure you don't have no dents. Make sure it's secure. And make sure you listen for any air leaks. All right, let's go and check for the push rod. All right, now what we got right here is the push rod, cotter pins, and the slack adjuster. Once again, the slack adjuster is upside down. So with the push rod, make sure it's free of movement. Make sure there's no obstructions. Make sure the cotter pins are present and secure. Make sure the slack adjuster and the push rod doesn't move more than 1 inch or less than 1 inch. If it's moving more than 1 inch, brakes can get locked up. Less than 1 inch, you don't have no brakes. Make sure this slack adjuster, if it's moving like that, so you need to adjust. Make sure it's properly lubricated on the slack adjuster. Then after that, you're gonna come right here and you're gonna check for your brake drums, which is this guy right here. Inside brake drum, make sure you're checking for oil or grease. If you have oil or grease, the brakes is there, not gonna work. Make sure it's not cracked as well. Then after that, you're gonna check for your brake shoes, which is this guy right here. Make sure it's not a lines right here. Make sure it's in good shape. It's not cracked. Make sure it's not thin, and make sure it's not broken. Because if it's broken, it's not gonna work. All right. As soon as we finish with that, you're gonna start coming outside, and then you're gonna check your axle seal. When you check the axle seal, make sure it's properly secure. The cover by this nuts. Make sure there's no grease around, and then it gets leaks. Then after that, you're gonna check for your. If someone say, "What do you have inside?" You have to say that you have a grease inside. All right. So the front, hot boiler seal. The back, axle seal. Section B, you have to check for the axle seal right here in the back. Now, as soon as you finish with that, you're gonna check for your lug nuts. Make sure they're not loosening or missing. Make sure that they're pressing and secure. Make sure that you don't have no rust behind it. If you have rust behind it, that indicates that it's looseness. As soon as we finish with that, you're gonna check for your ring. Make sure you're gonna check in with your rim. You're gonna make sure it's not on factory welds, not cracks, and it's in good shape. Then after that, you're gonna check for your what's it? All right, you're gonna check for your air valve stem. You're gonna check the pressure on your tire. Most of these tires, it can tell you the pressure that they're supposed to have, the maximum pressure that you're supposed to have. Most of this one, they tell you that it's 100 psi. Then after that, you're gonna check for your dual tires. When you check your dual tires, you're gonna make sure that you're checking like this. You're gonna check the outer, the middle, the inner, the outer, the middle, the inner tire. You're gonna look for abrasion, bulges, and cuts, ABC. Make sure that the tires, the deep tread of the tires, is no less than 232 on the treads. Make sure this one is I mean, you can get recap or regroup on this one. All right. Make sure you don't have no debris in the middle. On the middle of the two tires, like rocks, bricks, anything like that. It can damage the tire. Make sure they're not rubbing each other as well, because if they're rubbing each other, I mean, they will cause friction, and friction, you can blow the tire. Then after that, you're gonna check for your splash guards, which is this guy. Make sure it's secured by the bolts. You have it right there. All the bolts they're secure, they're not loosening or missing. Make sure your mop flap is in good condition. Make sure it's not cracked. And as soon as when you're coming out, you're just gonna say, I'm gonna check also my inspection sticker, make sure it's in a good shape, and it's up to date. Then after that, you're gonna check your header board. Make sure your header board is in a good condition. All right, make sure it's not cracks, no damage. And make sure it's secure. All right. Well, this is pretty much the section B for the CDL pre-trip inspection. Actually, this is for the CDL test. All right, we're gonna check now section C.